On Sunday evening, Canadian news outlet The Globe and Mail reported that Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, was planning to step down from his post. The news broke as Trudeau was coming under pressure from both the opposition and his own Liberal Party, and his resignation will probably have been formally announced by the time we release this video. Trudeau has been the leader of Canada for 9 years now, and his stepping aside looked likely to kick off what will be a dynamic year in Canadian politics. So in this video, we'll take a look at why Trudeau is resigning, who's likely to replace him, and if that'll change anything for the Canadian Liberals come election time. Never miss an episode and always feel in the loop by subscribing and ringing the bell. First, why is Trudeau resigning? Well, the proximate cause seems to have been the resignation of Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland last month, the fifth minister to resign from Trudeau's government in a year. Freeland had reportedly been arguing with Trudeau over his recent 2-month tax holiday, which Trudeau announced despite a rising budget deficit. And in her resignation letter, she implied that she didn't think Trudeau would be able to deal with the newly elected President Trump. Trump, who's threatened Canada with substantial tariffs when he comes into office, has recently been mocking Trudeau as the, quote, Governor of Canada, and suggested that Canada could join the US as the 51st state, despite a visit by Trudeau to Mar-a-Lago last month in an attempt to smooth relations over. Anyway, after Freeland resigned, dozens of Liberal MPs came out to call for Trudeau's resignation, and the NDP, who had previously propped up Trudeau's minority government by refusing to vote against it during no-confidence votes, announced a few days later that their party would oust Trudeau when the House of Commons resumes in January, which would have triggered a spring election. However, while Freeland's resignation might have been the trigger for Trudeau's resignation, the overarching reason that Trudeau has been forced out is that he's just remarkably unpopular. We did a full video on this last month, so go watch that if you want to know more. But the latest poll released by the Angus Reid Institute, a Canadian polling organisation, put Trudeau at an approval rating of just 22%, the lowest a Prime Minister has gotten in 30 years, and one of the lowest in history. Perhaps most worryingly for Trudeau, even a majority of Liberals said they didn't approve of the job he was doing, and polling suggested the Liberals were on track for a wipeout at the next election, which is due in October. Anyway, what's next for the Liberals? Well, according to the Liberal Party constitution, Trudeau's resignation will automatically kick off a new leadership race, which would usually take 4 to 6 months. However, the difficulty for Trudeau and the Liberals is that they can expect to be ousted via a no-confidence vote once the House of Commons resumes sitting, which could happen as early as January the 30th, 3 days after Parliament resumes sitting. This would give the Liberals just a month to agree a new leader, which means that unless they decide to rush their election or unless the NDP U-turn and decide to support the Liberals while they do their leadership election, Trudeau will have to prorogue Parliament. For context, in Canadian politics and in other Westminster-style systems, the Prime Minister can call for a prorogation of the Parliament to suspend legislative business without formally dissolving it, which is what Boris Johnson did in the UK back in 2019 to prevent the UK Parliament from passing legislation that would preclude a no-deal Brexit. However, there are at least 2 problems with this plan. First, a federal budget is due for renewal in late March 2025, and the Parliament needs to be in session for its approval, which at least makes it harder for Trudeau to prorogue Parliament beyond this point. But second, any prorogation will likely be challenged in the courts, as Boris Johnson's was in 2019. Although, like Johnson, Trudeau might be able to get away with it if the legal challenge takes too long. Another bit of evidence suggesting that Trudeau could get away with it is what happened in 2008, when then Prime Minister Stephen Harper successfully prorogued Parliament to avoid a no-confidence motion planned by the opposition parties. Anyway, if the Liberals can find a way to do a leadership race, the odds-on favourite to be the new Liberal Party leader is Chrystia Freeland. Numerous Liberal MPs expressed support for Freeland during her resignation, and in a caucus meeting before the holidays, she was given a standing ovation by her party colleagues. Former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney is also expected to make a run, with reports stating he's reaching out to dozens of Liberal MPs to gauge interest. Other candidates include Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly, Minister of Innovation François-Philippe Champagne, and new Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc. That being said, there is an unofficial convention in the Liberal Party going back to 1887 that Anglophones and Francophones alternate leadership of the party. With Trudeau being a Francophone, it seems that Freeland or Carney will be the choices for Liberal Party members, although both candidates come with issues. Freeland could plausibly lose her seat in University Rosedale, with 338 candidate giving her odds at around 60%, while Carney isn't even a sitting MP. As a final thing, will Trudeau's resignation save the Liberals? Well, probably not. The last-minute resignation of an unpopular incumbent is a classic move in Canadian politics, but it rarely, if ever, works in modern times. This happened to Trudeau's father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, when he was forced out by the Liberal Party in 1984 and replaced by John Turner. Turner failed to turn the tide against Grits and got blown out by Brian Mulroney and the Progressive Conservatives. Then, 9 years later, Mulroney became intensely unpopular, and he was ousted in favour of Kim Campbell. But she could not prevent the Progressive Conservatives from losing 154 seats in the 1993 election. Losing so badly, the party could not recover and eventually dissolved. Currently, the Liberals are polling at 16%, the lowest since 2011, and according to 338 Canada, aren't even projected to become the official opposition, as they're currently behind the Bloc Québécois. All in all, while it's hard to see any candidate, Freeland or Carney included, who could lead the Liberals to victory at the next election, getting rid of Trudeau might be enough to help the Liberals to second place, which would mean they get to be the official opposition. This leaves Canadian politics in a precarious position, especially with new leaders all over the world and also at their southern border vying for power and influence. The question is then, who'll come out on top? Who is the world's most influential person? That's what we're trying to find out with our most influential person list, which we need your help with. If you head to the link in the description, you can vote for your own personal top 10, helping to shape our overall ranking. Your vote is super important, and voting closes on January the 15th. So do your democratic duty and cast your ballot for the world's most influential person. Also, if you're wondering why we're doing this, it's for the next issue of our magazine, Too Long. That's because the next issue will contain the entire list, as well as fascinating articles about the top 25. Those won't just be boring profiles about each of the people either. There'll be interesting stories about who these people really are, where their power truly resides, and how they wield their influence. If you want to pre-order a copy of the magazine now, you can click the link in the description to pick up a copy. Oh, and if you pick up a premium copy of the magazine, you'll also get access to our internal award ceremony, where the team will first learn and react to your votes live. Plus, you'll get to watch TLDR team members sit down to discuss their lists and fight it out and try and agree for once. Plus, you'll get access to our behind-the-scenes podcast, The Bullpen, and your name printed in the thank you section of the magazine. Anyway, find out more, cast your vote, or order a copy by clicking the various links in the description.